The Essential Directorship Masterclass, Achieving Excellence at Board Level. Types of Director. The Executive Director. Most probably an Executive Director has a management role, but it might be as an internal advisor or a specialist. Executive Directors have the same duties as other members of the board. These duties extend to the whole of the business and not just that part of it covered by their individual executive roles. The Non-Executive Director. Non-executive directors bring experience and judgment to the deliberations of the board that the executive directors on their own would lack. Non-executive directors should take into account the views of shareholders and other stakeholders, because these views may provide different perspectives on the company and its performance. Independent Director. To qualify as independent, non-executives need to have the necessary independence of character and judgment, and also be free of any connections that may lead to a conflict of interest. This means not having any contractual or other relationship with the company or its directors, apart from the current office of director, and not being subject to any control or influence of a third party, which could affect the exercise of independent judgment. A non-executive director should not previously have been an employee of the company. Shadow Director. A shadow director is a person in accordance with whose directions or instructions the directors of a company are accustomed to act. Under this definition, it's possible that a director or the whole board of a holding company and the holding company itself could be treated as a shadow director of a subsidiary. Professional advisors giving advice in a professional capacity are specifically excluded from the definition of a shadow director in UK companies legislation. A nominee director. A nominee director is one who acts as a non-executive director on the board of a company on behalf of another person or firm, such as a bank, investor or lender. Nominee directors carry the same responsibilities and risks as other directors. Nominee directorships can sometimes be useful, for example in preparing off-the-shelf ready-made companies. But the nominee system can be used to disguise control and is open to abuse if the nominee secretly hands back all control to the real owner. In many such cases, they are residents of tax havens, acting on behalf of non-residents as a trustee on the board of an offshore firm in that haven. De facto director. A de facto director is one who acts to all intents and purposes as a director, even though they may not have been officially appointed. They make decisions, advise the board, and sign contracts, etc. And finally, director, when it is only a job title. Very often heads of departments are given the title director in order to have a higher status with customers and clients, but they're not actually directors, and it should be made clear where the definition and distinction lies. Now let's consider the responsibilities of the chairman. It's the responsibility of the chairman to create a climate in which thought and expression may flourish naturally, to bring both individual and collective views together in a cohesive team, ensure awareness of what has been decided, ensure effective communication with shareholders and stakeholders. Now, the senior independent director. As an independent director, they must qualify as independent, they must have independent character and judgment, and they must be free of conflicts of interest. So what is the role of the independent director? The role of the independent director is to be a sounding board for the chairman and to be an intermediary for the other directors. And annually they should hold a meeting with the other non-executives to appraise the chairman's performance. A lead director. The lead director leads the board's independent directors. The lead director is particularly relevant in America. The New York Stock Exchange requires listed companies to have non-management directors meet without management and overseen by a presiding director. It can be an alternative to having a separate independent chairman. The chief executive. The role of the chief executive is to propose strategy to the board. to implement board policy, to report on policy implementation, to devise management structure, and to recruit, manage, motivate, and retain an effective management team. The relationship with the chairman is key to this role. The company secretary. Now, the company secretary is an interesting case. The company secretary is not actually a director, but is intimately involved in the operation of the board and does attend board meetings. In the UK, all public companies must have a company secretary, but private companies don't need one. Company secretaries must have the requisite knowledge, experience and qualifications for the role. This means being a chartered accountant or a chartered secretary. The Chief Financial Officer has a particular responsibility to deliver high-quality information to the board on the financial position of the company. And clearly that is really, really important that the board has proper knowledge and understanding of the financial situation at all times. Now let's consider the role of a committee chairman. Becoming a committee chair can be a milestone along your board career journey. Your role is to ensure that business is dealt with appropriately and that the committee functions properly with full participation during meetings, all relevant matters discussed, and effective decisions made. Make sure you understand the reporting lines and where the committee fits in the board structure. The Essential Directorship model. This is an interesting model which endeavours to identify the difference between the board and the executives. As you can see, it's a standard 2x2 matrix, doing things right and doing the right things. So part of the role of the board is corporate governance, which is a matter of doing right things, counting value, being risk averse, and dealing with processes. The role in this case is one of protecting value. Now, from the management point of view, the executives, they also need to do things right in the short term, controlling the situation and making sure that finance is sorted. But in the longer term, in terms of creating value, the more important things are doing the right things, and this is where the directorship role comes in. Identifying and defining the values for the organisation, dealing with risk and dealing with people. And at a management level, doing the right things is a matter of leadership, dealing with the longer term view, dealing with strategy and commercialisation. So, governance and leadership are states of mind. Only managers manage and directors direct, but leadership and governance can be practiced throughout the company. So this is important to understand, as the board's role in terms of leadership is that certain things are cultural and behavioural, and leadership and governance are not just the role of the board. At all levels, individuals should understand their role within this context. So, let's consider your leadership role. Here's time for you to do some exercises. Firstly, reinforce governance and leadership are states of mind, taking up a responsibility. Only managers manage and directors direct, but leadership and governance can be practiced throughout the company. Study the Tunjic model and review your role and identify where you fit in to the 4 parts of the quadrant. And now, on to the next video.